What do we expect from the conversation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and what blackmail will the Russian dictator use this time to advance his demands? These and other topics we will discuss right now. My name is Iryna Uzlova, and today with us is Mykhailo Sheitelman, political strategist. Michael, hello, glad to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Iryna.
So Donald Trump plans to talk with Vladimir Putin. The focus is on the power plant and land issues. Why was the conversation postponed? How do you think will this phone call be decisive? And what are your expectations from the talks between Trump and Putin in general?
Well, I can't say it is postponed because we never had any date of this potential conversation. So, okay, this is the first conversation which is appointed before the conversation itself. Before that, in our previous history, we only heard from Mr. Trump when it happened, when the conversation with Mr. Putin happened. So it was the news for us. But today, it is something which is appointed. And Russians were very actively preparing, and I believe they're only waiting for this conversation because they know that really the future of Russian Federation depends on this call. What I mean when I say the future. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Mr. Putin did not say yes for our offer to have a ceasefire for 30 days. But Mr. Putin also didn't say no for this offer. Yes. So now the intention of Mr. Putin is persuade Mr. Trump that his phrases, different phrases which he said, it means yes. He didn't say yes. But he said yes, but we need some another moves from Ukrainian side, and the question about this conversation is if Mr. Trump, if President Trump will believe to Mr. Putin that he is ready for ceasefire, or Mr. Trump will not believe to Mr. Putin that he is ready for ceasefire, because obviously this is not true. The truth is Mr. Putin is not ready to this ceasefire, but now it depends on the understanding of Mr. Trump.
But Donald Trump told after visiting of Steve Witkoff Moscow that this conversation could be on Friday. So that's why I asked about why it was postponed.
No, it was mistaken because, he did a lot of mistakes, Mr. Trump, in last days. For example, on Friday, he published not a tweet, but the message on social network about this conversation. Like it conversation was happened. It looked like the conversation was happened. Really, Mr. Trump published that I had a very good conversation with President Putin, and I asked for this and for this and for this. But later, on Friday later, we heard the speaker of White House, and she said it was not about Mr. Trump's conversation. All this information is not about Mr. Trump. All this conversation is about his special envoy, Mr. Witkoff. So that is Mr. Witkoff who had the conversation with Putin and not Mr. Trump. And it was on Friday in the US, I mean. So it was a mistake. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we see your small big dog. He's so cute. Not so cute is Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov, but he confirmed the future conversation between Trump and Putin and didn't mention the topics, specific topics which could be discussed. So why? How do you think Peskov didn't want to open all topics and big problems or big hopes? Which of these will weigh to Putin's after this conversation between him and Trump?
I believe that President Putin has no idea what the topic he will discuss with President Trump. No, really. Because all the balls or cards, or how do you say, any game you could choose, were in the hands of President Trump, not in the hands of President Putin. So if President Trump wants to speak only about ceasefire, for example, so the conversation will be only about ceasefire. If he wants to discuss electric power plant, for example, nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, so it will be about this one. Or as we heard from President Trump, by the way, President Trump said publicly what will be the topic of this conversation. He said it will be about some power plants, and it will be about some lands and some other actives. It is not clear what he meant, which actives and what about what lands. He will speak with Mr. Putin. But what we could understand now, at least, we could, if we trust Mr. Trump, which is very difficult now, but if we trust Mr. Trump, so he means that the goal of this conversation is not about only ceasefire, but about the peaceful agreement, which is absolutely different, than just a ceasefire, because the ceasefire, it is something which happens without any conditions, and Ukraine agreed to ceasefire without conditions. And Ukraine doesn't ready to discuss any conditions for ceasefire. So you take it or leave it. This is the question for Russia. But on the next stage, if ceasefire happens, so the next stage is the discussion or negotiation about the future peace plan. Or this is not exactly again peace plan, but let's say permanent ceasefire agreement. In permanent ceasefire agreement, we should discuss there the armed forces of Russia will stay on permanent basis, but not on the legal basis, but on permanent basis. For example, if they will stay in the Crimea Peninsula or not. It will be not legal anyway, because this is Ukrainian territory and will stay Ukrainian territory. But at least way they put their armed forces. And what about electricity from Zaporizhzhia power plant, for example, which is the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe? Now Russians, they have stolen that, and they want to use the electricity for this plant and to stole it from Ukrainian people. And this is also the question for negotiation. But we have really thousands of questions like this. If we speak about final agreement, this is thousands questions. But if we speak only about the ceasefire, so we have only one question. And the answer could be, oh, no, oh, yes. And by the way, British foreign minister said on this weekend that we are waiting from Mr. Putin only one word, only one answer. Do you buy that or not? You say yes for a ceasefire or you say no to ceasefire? And Russians, they don't want to give this answer. And the former president of Russian Federation, Mr. Medvedev, who is right-hand man of Mr. Putin, he said some words which I can't say it in live stream. Really. He said the words which we can meet only in some Pulp Fiction movie of Mr. Tarantino, regarding to the words of British Minister of Foreign Affairs. He said what Foreign Minister of Great Britain should do with this offer and in which hole he should push this offer. This peace offer, I mean. So it is very difficult. It is a very difficult question if Russia is ready to this ceasefire or not. But for Mr. Trump, for President Trump, it is very important to report tomorrow after this conversation by phone that yes, he has one more win. He achieved the ceasefire. This is very important to Mr. Trump, to President Trump.
And you know, Dmitry Medvedev, about who you mentioned, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, sharply criticized the British-French plans and initiative for the possible deployment of peacekeeping troops in Ukraine, and told Medvedev that French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer are playing fools. They are told again and again that peacekeepers must be from countries that are not members of NATO. Not to know we will send tens of thousands. Just explain that you want to provide military assistance to neo-Nazis in Kiev. This means war with NATO, told Medvedev. Consult with Trump, scumbags, bad word too. So, does it show us that in real life Medvedev and other representatives of Russian authority are scared of these peace troops and peacemakers?
Yes, obviously we are not agreed, because one of the goals of this war, as we heard from Mr. Putin, is to avoid membership of Ukraine in NATO. And if, as a result of this war, he will receive the NATO forces on the Ukrainian territory, so anybody will know that he is lost. He's lost this war and not win that. That's a very important question. And Russians, by this reason, were not ready to peacekeeping troops by European Union or by British or French or Danish. Australia agreed to send the peacekeeping troops towards Ukraine. So they are not ready, and at this stage, at least, this is their red line. But Ukrainian problem is that American delegation is also agree with Russians in this case, because Vice President J.D. Vance said that it is senseless to send British or French troops towards Ukraine because these countries were not important. We are like second-row countries with very weak armies, and they never participated in the war last 40 years. This is almost the quote from Vice President J.D. Vance. And he said that about their main allies in NATO, about British and French. And he said that about the armies which participated in Iraq war, in Afghanistan, together with Americans. So I believe that this is very sensitive point for French and British now. And I believe they will insist on these troops. And by the way, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, he said today that UK is ready to send their armed forces to Ukraine on permanent basis. Not temporary, not for 1 year or 2 years, on permanent basis to base British troops on the territory of Ukraine. And believe me, this will be the main point in the negotiation, and the main stone in this negotiation, and main deal breaker in this negotiation. I don't mean now about the 30-day ceasefire, but about the long-term ceasefire. This is the main deal breaker, because Ukraine and Europe will insist on that, and Russia will never agree. That's it.
About what another security guarantees we can talk now for future negotiations?
There is no another security guarantee. We heard just tomorrow on Fox News appeared Mr. Waltz, the security advisor of President Trump. What he said, that probably Ukraine should pay by territories for security guarantees. Ukraine will receive security guarantees in exchange on territories. But you know what I think? That we did the deal like that 30 years ago. 30 years ago, Ukraine gave its nuclear weapon for security guarantees.
It's a pity, but it's fact.
Yeah. And today, the same side, United States, asked to give something else for security guarantees. So the previous deal didn't work, and why Ukraine should believe that the new deal will work? And what United States will ask for the next time, in 30 years more, they will ask to give our independence, because nuclear weapon, territories, now only independence, and they will ask to go for all the Ukrainians to go to slavery to Russian Federation, yeah? It looks like that. So obviously now not President Zelensky, not any other president of Ukraine will not agree to security guarantees which is on paper. These are paper security guarantees. Because paper about security guarantees we have. We have a paper signed by President Biden, President of the United States of America. And in these security guarantees, which is signed only in June 2024, openly said, first, that United States has to supply weapon to Ukrainian army. And Trump stopped that, he didn't pay any attention to this agreement. Second, openly said that United States will do everything for giving to Ukraine NATO membership. And nothing, Third, is in this agreement, it is said that United States will supply F-16 and all the weapon and ammunition for F-16. And Mr. Trump just not only stopped to supply, but also disabled all the electronic system of F-16, of Ukrainian F-16, I mean. So obviously nobody now believes to paper signed by American president. America now is not reliable, and not reliable partner and not trustable partner. So only physical guarantees, not paper guarantees. Physically send the troops, give the weapons physically, give them money, anything. Put the sanctions on Russia, but forever sanction, not for year or month. Something physical, not theoretical.
America only as a mediator is now, or maybe more than this, like Putin's friend, or no?
Not exactly, not exactly. If we could say that they are Putin's friend, but friend is category which is more philosophical category than political category. In politics, there's no friends. So America is not only negotiator also, because America make a pressure on Ukraine and make a pressure on Russian Federation. So America is the player, and I would say America is the side in this war. But America is not on Ukrainian side, America not is on the Russian side, America is independent third side of this war. We know from the history it could be some war between three countries, So now it is war between three countries, and America has its own interest in this war. For example, rare metals, for example, of Ukraine, or some electricity or something. I don't know what exactly the interest of United States in this war. But obviously now America stays on its own interests and doesn't pay attention to interests of Ukraine and doesn't pay any attention to interests of international order, of world global order, of United Nations, etc., etc. They just said, okay, we don't live in the reality of international order and international law. So we are in the new reality.
New reality without Voice of America, for example, and Radio Freedom.
Oh, Voice of America is another brilliant example, because Voice of America is an example of values, democratic values and Western values and global Western values. Because Voice of America, it was not just some one more media. It was not commercial media. It was not anybody who should earn the money. It is the provider of American values. And it provided American values during 83 years, if I'm not mistaken. 83 years. Just yesterday, in all the media outlets in the world, appeared the picture of U.S. President Reagan, Ronald Reagan, who appeared on this station. And I found it on YouTube. And it was the speech of Ronald Reagan on Voice of America. And he said, I am President of America, and I speak to the world from the Voice of America radio station. So it was the provider of American ideas, of American values. And values is democracy, human rights protection, property rights protection, transparency, and we could mention more and more and more human rights. But why Trump administration doesn't need Voice of America, and why Voice of America in the hands of Trump administration is something useless? Because Trump administration doesn't have any values. If you pay attention, the administration of President Trump does not have any values. It has interests, but not the values. Okay, this is their decision. They decided to do so. And their voters also understand. They voted not for values, but for interest. Trump said the interest of America is before everything, before the values, above the values. So in this case, you really don't need any voice of America if you don't have any values. If you are just a corporative state with interest in, I don't know, profit or something like that, yeah, to annexation of new territories, for example, because Mr. Trump openly said that he insists on annexation of Greenland, for example. This is not values. This is just use of force. And for the force, you don't need radio. For force, you need tanks and, plane carriers.
I know that you read Donald Trump's book about deals, success of deals. So he and his administration and his surrounding, that they are not about values. Yes, I agree in this moment. They are about money, and that's all.
Not only money. When you say the deal is not about money, because you mentioned this book by Mr. Trump. Mm-hmm. This book was written almost 40 years ago, 37 years ago. Then Mr. Trump was not a president, and he was just a real estate businessman, real estate investor and businessman, and he was 40-something years old. So it is rather a long time ago, yeah?
Yeah, really.
And in this book, he wrote that for him, not so important the result of this deal, but the process. He wrote that for him, this is art. The deal is the art, like painting or like poetry. And really, he compared that. He said, okay, my talent is to make the deals. And I believe in deals like in poetry, in the art of deals. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that they're interested only in money. Because, when you are president of the United States, you could print all the money in the world. No, really. You are the owner of all the money in the world. At least half of the money of the world you are when you are president of US. So no, not so primitive answer. Not only the money, but force, for example, to be the strongest man on the planet and to rule this planet. And this is also could be interest, but this is not value. This is interest again. To have a absolute, to be the chief commander of all other presidents. Yeah, like Mr. Trump won't be to the chief of Mr. Zelensky, for example, or chief of Mr. Putin. This is also interest, not the value, again, but this is not about money.
Yes, sorry for this technical moment. Michael, Politico reported that Ukraine is ready to consider easing sanctions against the Russian Federation, but only as a part of achieving a fair peace agreement that will ensure lasting peace, writes Politico about it. Could this moment be an argument for Putin to go for a peace agreement?
This article, I saw this article. But I really don't understand this because the sanctions. No, I will explain. Yes. The sanctions is not the Ukrainian issue mostly. Yes, Ukraine has the sanctions against Russia, but this is only formal point. The important sanctions is sanctions of US and Europe. And nobody will ask Ukraine if to ease sanctions on Russian Federation or not to ease sanctions on Russian Federation. That is the very easy answer. Very easy answer. I remember that Kit Kellogg, somebody who we almost lost, by the way, in the political process. Yeah, Kit Kellogg, till last Sunday, he was special envoy of President Trump for the war between Russia and Ukraine. And now he has a new position. And his new position is special envoy to Ukraine only. Not to Russia, Ukraine, but only to Ukraine. Which is very strange. You can't stop the war speaking only with one side, yeah? Only with Ukrainian. So, in his peace plan, which he more or less published, I say more or less because it was not official peace plan, obviously. It was before the presidency of Mr. Trump. And in his peace plan, He said, we and the Europe and our European allies, we should not remove any sanctions from Russia till the full peace agreement, which will be the agreement with which Ukraine will be happy. It means then all the territories go back to Ukraine and Russia pay the compensation, everything. And he mentioned that it will happen after Putin, not in the Putin period. So Mr. Kellogg does not believe that US or Europe should remove any sanctions from Russia during the rule of Mr. Putin. This is an important point. And now when Europeans or Americans, now it is only Americans, but they will push pressure on Europeans also for that, I believe. We want to remove some sanctions. We will remove sanctions from Mr. Putin. And it will be very strange if European leaders will be ready to sit together with Mr. Putin in some J8 instead J7 or something, or we will sit with Mr. Putin in some, to discuss the business after this, all of these war criminal acts, after that fact that Mr. Putin is war criminal and all of his team is war criminals. It will be very, very bad day for all the globe if Europe removes sanctions from Russia when Putin is still in power.
Yes, because he can use this period to make his forces stronger and his economy stronger and planning new attacks against not only Ukraine, against...
No, because this is against all the values of humanity. It's not about to make your army stronger or not, but to remove sanctions from this Russian Federation, this state which started with aggressive war, before they repay everything. They repair all the reparation. They repair everything. And they put in jail all the war criminals. Before that, it means to agree with Russian policy, to agree that this is allowed in our world. This is the best way to resolve any international disputes. A war is the best way. And we, in this case, we make 100 steps back to 100 years ago, you know. We will come before the Nation League, before the, we will come to 1918, immediately after World War I. So this is, and this 100 steps back is one huge step forward to World War III, obviously.
Michael, let me clarify a few more details. On the beginning of our today's conversation, we mentioned about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant because Donald Trump mentioned about it among topics he will discuss with Putin. But Putin, we all of us know, and all civilization world know about it, that Putin is using the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant as an element of nuclear blackmail. So why do I feel that Putin will never make concessions on this issue?
No, you know what Mr. Trump wants as president. He wants his attitude towards Zaporizhzhia power plant is not to something sovereign or sovereign property of Ukraine. He says, okay, this is the power plant. It stays here. What the usage of this power plant was before a war started. We used this power plant for Zaporizhzhia, for example, Zaporizhzhia city, I mean, for the factories in Nikopol, in our not occupied territory, but also to the occupied territory of Mariupol, for example, or Berdyansk, or maybe to Crimea also, So why not to use that for both sides? I believe that the position of Mr. Trump will be like that. Let's restart this station, because now it doesn't work. Let's restart this station with some, I don't know, common management of Russian-Ukrainian common management, and to use it towards Russian actives, Russian occupied territories, and to Ukrainian territories. He is businessman. Why not to use this active if it could work now?
Yes, really. Michael, thank you very much for today's conversation, for your thoughts, exclusive and professional, and for your time and for your position. See you next week. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, see you next week. Thank you, Ryan. Bye.
Bye. Michael Sheitelman, political strategist, was with me, Iryna Uzlova. Thank you guys for watching us, for joining us. So subscribe, please, on our YouTube channels and take care of yourselves. See you later.